Oh boy, we have some fun today. Just going to venture down this dark and relatively sketchy laneway. So we got here is our little 24-meter Z-boom setting up in the back lane. Maybe a little bit better footage here once the sun's actually up. It's still 6 a.m. here, so we got 600 cubic meters in a transfer slab to do. So the little 24Z out back here. I don't know if you can see or not, we got the placing boom right there. We got our Putzmeister 39Z out front feeding in through the placing boom here. So the plan is going to be to try and get about 4 trucks per hour through this 24 meter, only because we can only do 1 truck at a time because of the narrow laneway. So it's going to be a little bit of a slow process changing trucks in and out. This pump does have a 16 cell pump kit on it, so the same pump kit as most full-size booms do, so it's capable of a lot more than 40 an hour, but that's just all that we can supply to it. So, and then out front there we've got the placing boom, probably do about 80 cubic meters per hour through that, so we're aiming for a total here of about 120. So realistically, as we know it all goes, or how it usually all goes, we'll probably get about 100, but we shall see. Let's get a little bit closer look here. Really dark, tough to see here. We do have some lines, service lines on the bottom there, so those we don't touch, keep 3 feet away from. And up top there, it's not a high voltage wire, that is a 220 volt supply wire. So being a low voltage wire, also 3 feet away. But we have no business even coming within 10 feet of that thing. It's well out of our working range here. So okay, so here's the debate. We have these 2 poles in the way. We're going to be short rigged, so we can only boom out as far as that fully extended front outrigger. That pole there is about the midpoint of the slab, so do we set up in front of the poles? Do we set up behind the poles? Set up behind the poles, we're limiting our working range and we can't catch the stuff off the front corner, but the placing boom can. So let's have a little look here and see. A little better look from up top.
Like you're right in the front. If I were to sit up here, and I would at least get me to this pole. Morning.
Morning.
Cool.
You guys need some plywood also?
4x6s, yeah.
Yeah, a couple just so I can see inside. So if I were to sit up there.
Oh, plywood off the fence, yeah, sorry, there is a 4x6 guy.
If I were to sit up there, come back here, that would just get blocked by the poles. I'd be able to get to that corner. Just this right here.
Oh, but the slab, the bulkhead's right there anyhow. So I'm gonna say, do we sit right in the middle?
But I was just thinking because I'd be able to get all this shit back there.
The placing boom reaches the whole thing anyhow.
Oh, does it?
It does, so it's just a matter of what's going to give us the most working range.
Well, you know what? Okay, look, in between here, I'll be able to stretch out. And then when I come over top, I can A-frame it over this to get the boom.
Yeah, and you know what? The closer he is with what he's doing, the harder he can pump, because he won't be bouncing around as much. That thing bounces a fair bit. So maybe we sit back. Do you want to sit? I almost think we sit right in the middle.
Yeah.
And then
that way I can stretch out both ways like this.
Yeah, it's easy enough to go over top of that one, whatever. You only have to get to this corner anyhow.
But then manholes, we have manhole there, manhole there. That should be good. And do I leave the dumpster on the other side here? Dumpster's up there. So I can hit
But yeah, I think yeah, we'll sit back, we'll boom straight in between the two. And then, not that it makes a difference, then the truck's got 20 feet less to back down the lane too. Not that it really matters. But yeah, I think that's the best way. Otherwise, we're stuck just doing this. Frick, I don't know, man. No, you know what? I think you're just going to end up absolutely hemmed in between here, and to get up and over it. Fuck, I don't know. Is it 6 of one, half a dozen of the other?
Well, if I set up all over there, I'll be able to span all this, and I'll probably stop for that guy's fucking with the vest. that'll be my limitation with this pole, right?
Luckily, your boom pipe being on this side of the boom, if you set up where you're at, you can still get pretty tight to that post because your pipes are on this side. So you know what? I think I would just sit where you are, actually.
Okay.
If the boom pipes were on the other side, maybe I'd come back on this side of the pole, but I think, yeah, let's just do that. I don't think any one way is a million times better than the other, but we'll just do that.
With the slab being up to almost ground level, what's my distance from the edge now?
It's still the same thing until they pour the slab to tie it all in. They basically treat that as an excavation until the slab ties those perimeter walls in.
16 inches? 18 inches?
For how far down it is?
Well, how far back do my outrigger pads have to be?
Oh, we gotta be 2 feet back from the wall. Or from the plywood hoarding, I should say.
Get this fucking party started.
Where's our 4x6 guys? They promised us, like, well, I guess they can't leave it here overnight or it gets stolen. It'd be used for building temporary shelter.
Did you shit yourself?
No, that's just the laneway. That's just the neighborhood. That's the essence of the neighborhood. All right, finishers have arrived with the power trowels. Got the 39-meter pump setting up out front here. And I believe they changed the orientation of the pipe layout such that the pump now sits further to the east, and we've got more room to stage trucks in front of the pump to the west. So that'll be a big help today. Because staging and logistics will be the challenge down here. Got a fancy dancy ramp here over top of the pipe where it runs across the sidewalk. Nice, they bolted it into the concrete barriers here. Very nicely done. Check in here, see how the guys are doing. Hey, good morning.
Morning.
If you could give one tip to a concrete pumper, one piece of advice, what would it be? One tip for the day.
Make sure you got your coffee.
Oh, wow. I was hoping for something a little more technical. Make sure you have your coffee. That's the best we could get. Bloody kids. Still got 3 feet from that communications wire. A little bit deceiving from this angle, but we got at least 6 feet from that top 220 volt low voltage supply wire. And our regulation on those, 3 feet, 3 feet. It's all good. All right, so here it is. It's the tip of the day. So safety slings. We got one off of the boom here. And because if we were to choke this one down on the hose, just using the single sling, we'd run into issues with running out of slack once that elbow comes down. So what we've done is we've taken another sling here, choked it here, choked it here. And the reason we do that is never, ever, ever, ever choke a safety sling, especially on the reducing portion of the hose. This is a 5 to 4.5 reducing hose, and never on the coupling either. It is possible, and I have seen personally, brand new hoses that haven't been crimped properly, and the hose is actually blown right out of the crimped on coupling. So that's why we make sure that the sling is on the rubber body of the hose. Just enough slack, not so much that if the hose were to come loose, it's going to fall on anybody. We don't want it falling more than about a foot, but also enough slack such that we can move that tip section in any position we want, and we have enough length here on the sling that it's not going to inhibit the articulation of that elbow. So that's it, the tip of the day right there. Oh, and concrete is here. Here we go. All right, so here we go, the preferred method for priming a small boom pump. Full volume and forward, stroking and forward. I'm just going to spray water up into the barrels. You're going to let it switch over about 5 or 6 times. Sorry, 2 to 3 times but let it take 5 to 6 strokes. And stop. That's all it takes. There's a lot of guys that'll load up a bunch of water in the bottom here. On a small pump like this, I'm not really a fan of using a whole whack of water. All it does is cause segregation. On a bigger boom, I would probably use a little bit more water just because you got more boom pipe to eat up that water as the prime goes through the boom. Anyhow, that's how we're going to prime it. Here she comes, nice leisurely pace. No need to hammer it through. We got the placing boom ready to go over there. We are rock and roll over on this side. Big reach, big stretch there, a little 24 meter. That's all she's got. All right, hammer time. Crank it. RPM. Yeah. There we go. The little pump that could. See our pipeline there comes in from street level, runs down to the P1, arcade level 1, across, back up the placing boom mast, and out to the happy end. You can see, I was talking about this boom bounces around a lot. Also doesn't help that it's on a placing boom mast. You'll see how much flex there is there between strokes. It's all good, it's all normal, part of the game. So we're about 100 meters in here now. So getting pretty good service to the placing boom setup, and they're just ticking away one mixer at a time there in the back lane. So those of you questioning, I'm sure there's a few, the usage of the long-ish 4-inch hose here. It's a 12.5 foot 4-inch hose. Purpose for that is to stretch the placing boom to that back corner. We're going over top of the zones there, the rebar zones. You need that extra bit of length to actually be able to still reach. So that is the purpose for it. Otherwise, usually if you had like a 10-foot whip hose, even the same 4-inch diameter, it takes a lot of that waver out of the hose. Just having that extra 2.5 feet really makes the hose dance around a lot more. But for this application, it's more of a benefit than it is a hindrance. So that is why. You can see we got a little bit of movement in the pipeline here, just because this is a bit of a temporary setup, so they have not put a thrust block in here yet. So we're gonna come in, cinch these bolts down, tighten it up, and take some of that that slap of the pipe, get rid of some of that movement. Yeah, it's just right there. You can see those bolts are loose. Is it just right there? It's just right there.
It's a spot that should have
A block eventually. Is that coming out of there soon?
Once we get up to this slab level, then it'll go straight across.
Doesn't really change it much, does it?
What's that?
Didn't really change much.
No.
I think it's just the wood pedestals it's on. They're just kind of rocking back and forth, but it is what it is.
Yeah, best would be just for a thrust block, but they're always so busy.
Yeah.
I asked them a while ago about putting one in here.
So the idea there is pour a good mass of concrete, say a cubic meter of concrete, and then bed that elbow there and take all that surge out of the pipeline, which is the eventual plan. This was just installed here a couple days ago, and like Tony was saying there, they haven't had a chance to cast this in place yet. But as the building goes up higher and the pressures increase dramatically, there's going to be a lot more pressure and potentially a lot more surge on this. So it will have to be encased in concrete. It is the proper best way to do it. This will get us through for today, but not ideal for the future moving forward. So just another note here for blowout today, for cleaning the pipeline out. You see our diversion valve up top there. We'll switch that valve over, which will divert the flow of concrete from this pipeline. Instead of going back to the pump, we'll divert it through that hard line there. We'll place the crane bucket underneath. How you doing? Good, thanks. And they'll blow the concrete out into the bucket. And then the rest of the pipeline that goes back to the pump, they'll put a sponge in the opening there, and they'll suck that back into the pump. So there's about 70 feet of horizontal pipeline that gets pulled back into the hopper, and then everything's clean and everything's good. That is how we are going to do it. So here's a little better look at the diversion valve I was just talking about. So that's the pipeline that comes from the pump, goes through the valve, through the hard line, all the way up through the boom. That's the blowout line that goes back down and eventually into that crane bucket. So what happens is, this valve hydraulically, this ram will extend downwards, and this plate will come down. There's another hole which lines up with that elbow. So as the plate comes down, that elbow now lines up with this pipeline. Put a sponge in that elbow, you can suck that all the way back to the pump, so that line is clean. This S valve here, when this switches over, that valve, instead of aligning with this pipeline here, the delivery line from the pump, it will now align with the hard line, which goes to the blowout bucket. So that's how we do it. And one other little trick we're going to do before we do blowout, we'll pull the cap off of that elbow there. We'll pour some bentonite primer inside of the elbow, such that when that valve switches over, you've got some primer in the line ahead of the concrete. Otherwise, if we were just to switch it over, you'd have concrete going into a dry pipeline and potential for a plug. So always use a little bit of primer for that too. Just the same way you'd prime a boom or prime a line pump. Exact same concept. So this little thing here does amazing, amazing things. If you ever have an issue with one of these on site, a mechanical failure or whatnot, yeah, it can be a big, big problem. So fortunately, that won't happen today. Fingers crossed. All right, so here we are 6.5 hours later. We just got a little stretch left to do, probably about 2 loads. The little 24-meter pump is pumping out right now, every last drop. And then he's going to spin around into the lane with the boom, suck the sponge back, and get the heck out of here. And yeah, when we get down to where it's time to blow out the placing boom here, we'll go through a step-by-step on that as well. So we'll check back in a bit. All right, so here we are. Last little bit to pour here, just a couple meters left. Big run on the bowl float there. So what we'll do now is just going to wet up the concrete that's in the truck. So we get some nice wet concrete in the placing boom line. So that when we swing the boom down to blow out with air and a sponge, concrete's nice, sloppy, easy to move. So yeah, we'll check back in once we're ready for blowout time. All right, so we got Jag here putting the first sponge in the tip elbow. Then he'll put the blowout cap on the elbow there. And once we switch the diversion valve over, we'll apply air pressure, and it's going to push all the concrete back through the pipe in the bucket. We got a bucket of bentonite primer here, and our fabulous operator Landon is going to throw this into the blowdown line just prior to switching the valve over here. So the primer goes in that elbow there. It'll fall into this pipe here. It'll coat the pipe. Then when that valve switches over, concrete will dump right through that pipe into the bucket. Just from that blade action, the valve switching over can cause a little bit of a dry pack. That's why it's so important to use the primer. For a short run like this, we could almost certainly get away with it, or without using it rather. But when you get into systems where you've got a much longer run back to your blowout bin, you know, 50, 100 feet of system, the primer becomes even that much more critical. And the higher up you are on a high rise, the more back pressure there is on the concrete when you switch that valve over, and the more pronounced that segregated dry pack can be, which is first entering the pipe once the valve completely makes its shift. We'll fire up our little hydraulic power pack here. We're going to dump in our primer. Like so. Beautiful. Jag's got the blowout cap on the end there. If you can see here from here or not, but he's got the air pressure gauge on there so he can monitor the air. It's critical to control the air pressure at the end of the run so you don't have an extra large explosion as the sponge comes through. You can see our primer dripping out the end of the pipeline there. Flow it all the way down through into the bucket. As soon as this valve comes over, as soon as that valve lines up with that pipe, we got flow. There's another hole in this plate which corresponds with that elbow, which will line up with this pipe which goes back to the pump. He's going to put a bucket of retarder in that elbow and suck the sponge back into the pump. And here we go, she's shifting. As soon as that shift completes, You'll feel the concrete start moving through the pipe. There we go. And we got concrete. Now he's going to apply the air pressure. Probably going to run it at about 40 to 60 pounds pressure. It's probably going to be, say, roughly 1 cubic meter of concrete in this system right now. So that bucket, I'm going to venture to say, is going to be darn near full by the time our sponge comes out. And we had a little bit of concrete in there to begin with. It was already about a quarter full. So I think that's a 1.5 meter bucket, I believe. Landon's tapping on the pipe there. As soon as the sponge gets close, you'll hear the pipe ting, 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 which means it's empty. So he's just going to hang out and communicate with Jag, who's overrunning the air there at the end of the boom. And as soon as they hear that pipe is empty, they're going to start bleeding off air pressure, such that we don't have all that built up air expelling through the end of the pipeline into the bucket. And we'll lessen the potential drama here as the sponge comes out. This is the hurry up and wait part. You can see we still got flow dripping out the end of the pipeline there into the bucket. Sort of an interesting run because the sponge travels up, comes back down, one level down in the parkade, and has to come back up again. So probably going to have to give her a little bit more air to overcome that vertical push. Now that we no longer have the weight of the concrete from the boom and mass section helping it. Oh, here it is. Oh, not quite yet. It's getting there. You can see though, as he applied a bit more air pressure, how things started moving again at a rapid pace. And we'll give it a little bit more air. Requires a little bit of finesse. There's nothing coming out at all. I think he's got to give it a good. There we go. We got movement. Beautiful. Well executed. Like I said, a little bit tricky with the up, down, horizontal, up, again. So now Landon's going to dump his retarder in the elbow here. Oh, you already did it? Just pretend like you're doing it for illustrative purposes. Okay, Landon's dumping his retarder in now. It's invisible retarder. It's a new product. Contact your local concrete pump supply outlet for for inquiries.
And then we put a sponge in there and it's empty.
Did you put the sponge in too? And you already sucked it back?
It's an offer.
Oh. Okay, then he would have put a sponge in and he would have sucked it all the way back into the hopper. And then he would have tapped the pipe and it would have been hollow. Here. He would have tapped the pipe and you would have heard that it's hollow all the way back to the pump and there'd be a sponge floating in the hopper. So just picture that. It was really, really awesome. We'll get that next time. Next time we're gonna have to hire a stand-in for you.
Why?
Your communication, man. When you're on set, man, you got to be on it.
I thought you were on it. I thought
No.
the cameraman was panning and
No, I got a lot going on here. I'm very nervous. So, yeah, that was awesome the way you sucked the sponge back right into the pump like that.
the information that everyone's going to get from it.
Yes, yes. So Jag's got our fancy dancy little pneumatic apparatus there in the yellow cage perched on top of the 45-gallon water supply. So that's a pneumatic air pump. So he's going to go ahead and just load those pipes up with water and blow another sponge through. So on the second round here, because there's not a bunch of concrete in the pipeline, they're just going to let her rip, crank the air, and wait for the water and sponge to come through, and it'll be very mild in comparison to the first purge there. So just gonna absolutely load that thing up with water, lots of water, as much as it'll take.
Just one ball.
So the reason we put the retarder in that elbow there when he sucked that sponge back is so that by the time the sponge gets into the hopper of the pump, that retarder mixes in with all the concrete that's in the hopper, and then when we drive to our washout area, we're not in a big panic to get the concrete out of the pump. That stuff will be it won't set for several hours. So just a nice preventative measure. A little bit of preventative measure in this business goes a long, long way to relieving potential stress, that's for sure. You have to grab a stick and push that sponge in. That's a 6-inch ball, isn't it? Or is it just a swollen 5-inch? It's swollen 5? Oh yeah, 'cause it's that 4.4-inch pipe. That's why it's such a tight fit. 4.4-inch pipe on this boom versus a 4.8-inch pipe is the standard size. This is a little bit smaller, so that sponge will be a real tight squeeze in there. The good news is it'll clean extra well, or extra good, to use proper pump operator grammar. There we go. Here we go, round 2. 5 gallons of water, maybe 10, and a round sponge. And we'll just push this one through at full tilt here. There it is. Goosh. And just like that, your pipes are clean. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm going to go back to the hopper now, and we're going to show you the sponge. To make sure he was telling us the truth. I won't believe it till I see it. Yeah, definitely. Reverse one more time just to be sure. We don't want to look stupid. So we don't want to look stupid.
No, not on YouTube.
There's millions of people watching this. Millions. Hopefully a couple thousand. That would suffice. So let's take a little walk back to the pump here. See if we got a little floaty surprise in the hopper. If we don't have a floaty surprise, our day just got a lot longer, potentially. So let's just see here. Empty. What do we got? What do we got? The moment of truth. Oh, look at that. There's our little friend. We didn't even chop it either. That sponge will live to see another day. That's exciting. Any final words? This is the outro. It's your chance to say something. Something very impactful.
Is it in there?
It's in there, yeah. I checked, it's in there.
Good. Oh, a mess though.
Yeah, it is a bit of a mess. It's okay, that's the name of the game. Anyhow, that concludes our video for today. Thank you for traveling along on this concrete pumping adventure. Like, share, subscribe, comment, good or bad. Constructive criticism is always appreciated. Heckling is always entertaining. Over and out.